Hey, welcome to the Closing Time podcast. I am David Mansour. I'm a mortgage loan officer, lender dude, scout dad, right here in Peachtree City. I cover Fayette, Coweta County, primarily licensed in all 50 states. What we like to do here on this podcast is we just like to talk to people in the community. We like to find out what their life is about. We try to minimize actually what they do for a living and just talk about more who they are as a person. We're probably going to do the opposite today because we have an incredible guest today, Mr. David Cooper, head football coach at Starr's Mill. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
We've known each other a long time.
We have a very long time at this point.
You were what, 17? So
maybe 16, 17.
It was your senior year. So
Okay.
I coached right out of college.
Right.
And I coached baseball at Fayette County High School.
That's right.
And I had to say, you were one of the most incredible athletes I've ever been around.
Yeah.
And not just because of your athletic ability. I don't know that you see so many athletes that are just so focused on just being great. Like you knew to joke around when you were on the sidelines, but you were between the white lines. I just remember you getting mad at other players if they weren't taking you serious.
Yeah, I probably a little bit had an attitude issue in high school. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I had a very high expectation of what needed to happen and when it needed to happen. And, sometimes that came out the right way, sometimes it came out the wrong way. And it's kind of propelled me through my whole life is that little edge that I've always had.
But you balled out. So where did it come from? Is that just something you're born with? Did your parents push that on you? Where do you think it came from?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like for me, it was a little bit more just an internal expectation, and it was a friend group expectation. I mean, we had quite a squad of people, that I had grown up and played with since I was 10 years old. That our coaches in youth league and everything we did just always set the bar really high for us, and there was no expectation below that for us.
Yeah.
And it kind of got ingrained to it at an early age. I mean, if we're talking about baseball, I mean, Buddy Barnes, he was the coach growing up, and, Buddy would get on us pretty bad as young kids. And my parents were still very supportive of everything he put us through, because they knew inevitably it was going to make us into the person or the type of person that they wanted you to be.
Yeah. So I didn't know Buddy, but I heard that a lot. And I remember seeing, because he passed away a few years ago, I remember just when he did, just seeing all the people come out of the woodwork, because you played with Jeff Barnes.
Yeah, well, he was one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's a big part of it, too, is Jeff was a D1 athlete. He played football in South Carolina.
Right.
So when you're surrounded by, Jeff's expectations for himself and what were on him were probably pretty high as well. So that probably elevates everybody.
I think a lot of that, Jeff, you talking about Brett Latham, you talking about
good Lord.
You talk about Brent Cloud and Adam Baker, and then the class before us, it had Richie Deering, Kyle Anderson, Matt Southwell. Like, we were just surrounded by kids who wanted to excel at what we did.
And the group after y'all was pretty good, too.
Yeah.
Lehigh come in afterwards.
Yeah, Matt Epps.
Joseph Eden's, just a lot of kids that end up playing a lot of ball.
Fayette County funneled a lot of baseball players through that place for a while.
Yeah. I wonder if I don't know how they do. I guess they don't. I don't see them in the tournament, but y'all played for the state championship.
Yeah,
is it this year?
Yeah, well, 2 years ago we won it. We had probably one of the best teams I've been around. We had the Peachtree City Little League All-Star team that made it to Williamsport that year. That was their graduating class. And, high school sports is you're trying to not miss two classes in a row, just to where you don't have a huge number of athletes. Like, you can have a big number and then you don't want a small number followed by another small number. So that class really, for baseball, we had a handful of kids that were pretty good and can play, but that class that they brought in and a few more kids got added to that class, that their sophomore year, we started 8 sophomores for the majority of the season. Wow. And we were pretty bad early, going through those growing pains of just kids trying to grow into positions and knowing their role on the team. But that team had a great attitude, and that same team came back their junior year and they made it to the Final Four. And then, well, their sophomore year, we ended up making it to the Elite Eight. We went on a run late. Talent started to
We're
kick
talking
in.
about baseball.
Yeah,
still.
baseball right now.
Yeah.
And then junior year, we made it to the Final Four. And then their senior year, we ended up going like 33-2, and it was probably one of the better pieced together sports teams where you set the expectation for them and they can meet it every day.
I love that because I've had a couple coaches we've talked about that, about setting higher expectations for kids. Is sometimes even for those low level kids, I think sometimes we set the expectations too low for them instead of saying, yeah, you can do this and you should be doing this.
The whole world we live in right now seems to be more careful than anything else, and
you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
And I don't know why, because we grew up in a world that wasn't very careful. It was
mental health.
You don't want to hurt a kid's feelings, and I just got to tell you, nobody was worried about my feelings growing up. And
I think that's, and I don't know the correlation. I don't know it all, and I hate speaking on stuff like this because I speak from ignorance. But I think mental illness is a big issue, but I think that a lot of people are blaming their lack of success or their failures or their uncomfortableness on mental illnesses. And it's just a cycle where now we're like, oh, well, let's not hurt their feelings because then they're going to fall into this mental illness. It's like, no, they didn't work hard enough. They didn't achieve their goals. They're not trying to, and that's not everybody. We know that there are serious mental illnesses, but I think it's kind of spiraling.
I think society bubble wraps everybody too early. Like, I think I went through things way earlier than, even if you talk about my kids, or, we'd get on a bike at 10 and ride 5-6 miles down the road to a pickup game. And I don't know many parents nowadays that would allow their kids to do that. And, we talk about going way off track, but we watched like Sandlot the other night, and I've got 2 smaller kids, and kids are all over the place. They're in town, they're doing anything, and there's a level of trust in society and everything. And then last night, they didn't know what to watch, so we ended up watching Stand By Me with my 8 and 5-year-old. But it's like these kids, and they're probably like 10, and they go on a trip by themselves. And
to see a dead body.
So we went through, like, I just feel we were so less guarded and so more that we protect too much nowadays, that these kids, the mental illness starts to come into that because at an early age, they aren't learning how to figure things out for themselves. And
I will say a big part of that is because of children were hurt in large numbers by large organizations that we thought were protecting them. And so therefore everybody's like, well, I am not allowing
that's not happening to my kid.
That is not happening.
100%.
They have to be here. So I think that's part of it. We got to figure out how to keep kids safe.
Yeah.
And I think it's more teaching the kids. Like, I credit my ex-wife tremendously with talking to my kids and preparing them for every situation. If somebody says this to you, this way, you're not to ever be alone with another adult.
Yeah.
Like, if another dad, if you're spending the night at somebody's house and the dad says, hey, come with me to go pick the pizza up, you say no.
Yeah.
John's not going? No.
Yeah,
we call my mom and ask. Like, we prepared our kids for all of those situations. So
we got to figure out a way to navigate the good and the bad, because with every change in society, you start to see negative effects from that change, and then there'll be another change, and then we'll find out there's stuff wrong with that, and then we just got to work our way back to these kids just being kids and being able to not be full of the world's anxieties that they get full of now, and things that I never thought of that my 8-year-old talks about, and I'm like, why? What is that even?
I would love some out-of-the-box opinions, if anybody has one, on that whole circle, because I think most people would agree that it is serious mental illnesses, serious, but I don't. There's a lady that does a little video, African-American lady, just as descriptive, that does an incredible job of trying to differentiate between what is a true mental health disorder and what is you just not being able to handle stress. Like, I love the way she puts it. So, I don't want to move back. I want to talk about baseball. You're coaching, or not baseball, but football. But I want to mention just 2 proud moments, like Epps.
Yep.
I hadn't seen him in years, and now I see him at Southside Church.
Yeah.
And me and you reconnected at Southside Church.
Right.
I just think that's incredible to see. I mean, it's natural. I don't know why I think it's such a big deal. We all act crazy in high school and in our young teenagers, but then to see it full circle, to see you be an incredible father, to see you at church, to see Matt Epps at church. I don't even really speak to him. because we didn't know each other that well. I coached
Right.
him. But I know that, just to see y'all at Southside Church, see us as adults, see you as a father, it's just cool for me.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't get it yet.
Not full circle yet,
Yeah,
but
hell, I'm only, 5 years older than you? Maybe 10?
yeah, 44.
So 6 years older.
Yep.
When I was coaching in baseball, it seemed
You might as well have been my age.
I was your grandfather there. Oh, hey.
Yeah, you were young. You were the young guy.
To me, I felt like I was a little older. It was. It wasn't a big difference, but we're not going to talk about that. That was fun. That was a good time.
Yeah, but I see people all the time at church that I haven't seen in forever that come back, and I probably went on a good stretch in my life where I didn't really go to church that much, and but I grew up in it. I grew up at Fayetteville Christian. We went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. It was full bore. And then when I got to college, things just start. You play as a college athlete. You overvalue your time opposed to the things you should be doing. And then, really, me showing up to Southside every Sunday, as much as it is for me, is for my kids, man. I mean, I got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and their kids program is incredible, and they really draw people in, and they keep their attention. And I want them to know what Jesus is about, what the Lord is about, and try to, direct that path for them going forward the same way it kind of did for me growing up.
It grounds you, and I do agree. And I love that Andy Stanley talks about that journey of life, like where you go off to college and you might, because he often mentions, hey, if you're just now coming back to church, he says that all the time.
Yeah.
I've been back to church now for about 15 years,
right.
But I always feel like I'm still back to church because I'm all growing and all that good stuff, so I love it. So anyway, that was awesome. Let's talk about football. I'm gonna jump to the end today, and then we'll go backwards. But what's gonna have to happen for Starr's Mill to win a state championship this year?
Oh boy. Starting with last year, we had an incredible team. I mean, we were led by a bunch of seniors. We ended up going 10-2. And, had a couple unfortunate things happen at the end of the year that, when Georgia High School has combined the classifications to, 4 classifications, it's really hard for some of the public schools to compete with all the cities and private schools that all seem to be lumped in. So we had what we thought was maybe like a quarterfinal, maybe semifinal match in the second round versus Cartersville, and our season was probably cut a little bit short. Going into this year, I got a good bit of my O-line back, and then but we've got new kids, so a first-year starting quarterback's going to be a sophomore. Yeah, so
that's probably the hardest part of football, right?
Yeah, Hunter. I mean, from what we went from last year, Logan Inaugural, he was a 3-year starter for us. I mean, he kind of grew into the offense. We were able to run multiple offenses at a time. Going from wing tee, which is what we kind of base out of, to triple option midline stuff. And then last year with, a 3-year quarterback, you slowly start to expand that thing a little bit. So we put in some zone, we put in a lot more passing game stuff, and we were able to bounce between basically 3 or 4 offenses, which becomes a nightmare for defensive coordinators. Yeah. So we kind of lived on that. We had a lot of experience on the D-line last year, and again, Jared Moore, Evan Bartek, some guys out there that have played. Evan was a 4-year starter for us at Mike, a freshman starting Mike 4 years ago for us. So we got to replace and we got to grow up.
That's middle linebacker.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, I'm glad I scored from that.
We got to grow up. We've got people. You just need. I think with anything, this is not a boasting moment, but I've got 3 football state championship rings and I've got 2 baseball. And with any of those, he asked what it takes for Starr's Mill to win a state championship. With any of those comes a bit of good fortune. I mean, I can probably name as good as some of those teams that I was a part of at Sandy Creek with, Mike Hilton, Rajon Neal, like all these Division I power players. I can still probably name 2 or 3 times during that season that something very fortunate happened to us to not knock us off the rails. I think there's very few teams that win a state championship in Georgia, which is very good football, very good sports in general. That it's just a clean,
Yeah.
you,
That is rare. I remember, I mean, the biggest example is college football. I don't know why I'll never forget it. I guess because I hate Tennessee. Sorry, Tennessee
right.
fans. But Tennessee, T. Martin, when they won their national championship, I don't remember if it was Ole Miss or Mississippi State or whoever had the game won. I mean, it was like, I want to say 30 seconds left. And this would have ruined Tennessee's chance. They would no longer play for the state championship. And they snap a punt back with like 30 seconds left. And the guy fumbles the punt.
I remember this.
And Tennessee picks the ball up. And then I think they either drive or whatever. And they score. And now they're playing for national.
Stroke of good luck.
Well, the same with Auburn when the Hail Mary where Georgia packed the ball up. So that's exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes you should have lost.
Yeah.
But, great teams find a way to win. I do believe that with Alabama. Because there's a lot of times they would have
there's
lost, but they're just prepared.
But I think some of that also goes to how you prepare your kids for when that situation also comes up. That if you don't take advantage of that situation during the game when it's your chance to flip the game around, you haven't prepped them right and things don't go your way. So I think some of that, let's not act like it's just 100% luck, but it's the way you coach the kids, the way you make the kids believe in themselves, the way, and then how they react on a Friday night.
Well, a lot of people say that. Luck is just being prepared for incidents that happen. So, I know you met Brandon Sarazola. I always make a joke out of his last name, so I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but he's the women's basketball coach here at Starr's Mill. And I just remember him talking about his previous school. The football team didn't do summer workouts at all. Didn't work out. So just speaking to the parents, because I know you have organized. I'm assuming they're voluntary right now?
Yeah, they're voluntary.
They're voluntary. But how important is that, when you're talking about parents that want to win the state championship or kids that want to play for it, to really think football, and I believe in multi-sports, but you've got to be focused on a sport or your fitness year round. I mean, those off-season workouts make the difference in championship teams, am I right?
Yeah, the days of just your best athletes, just being your best athletes are long gone. I mean, it takes an incredible amount of work in today's world to keep up with, the way organized sports is. I mean, every sport's trying to suck kids into a year-round situation and making, I feel like, mostly empty promises with, if they do it 10, 12 months a year, they're going to get a scholarship. And that's not necessarily the case. But, for us, we do 7:30 workouts all summer long. In the month of June, we go Tuesday through Thursday. And then the month of July, we circle back to Monday through Thursday. We're in a position right now to where we need multi-sport athletes to participate in football just to keep the numbers up. I mean, like I said, if lacrosse, baseball, soccer, whatever it may be, there's groups around us trying to say, hey, well, if you keep playing baseball, I'm going to be able to get you something. And I'm kind of opposite of that. I think if you play multiple sports, you'll naturally become better at each sport. Every sport has football has a level of mental toughness that a lot of other sports don't require. And those kids, when they get out there to the other sports, they're able to use that to positively influence the other players or just the team in general. Basketball has a level of agility and conditioning that other sports don't. Soccer, conditioning, of course. I mean, they all play off each other, but I think the most important thing for summer for us is just team continuity. Those guys getting here every day. They know what they're going through at early stages. I mean, they know what we're building towards. Yeah, the guys that are going to be here, the guys that are going to give you their all every day. And so when we actually get out here and we start practicing like we have this week, that tone's kind of been set with some of those, the seniors. I always say the seniors, your greatest legacy you leave, because every senior class that leaves a program, they're always like, oh, the team's going to be no good when we leave, but your legacy is how that team is when you leave. Like, were you able to have a good enough influence on those younger kids to where they continue to build on it as they go? And if you did a great job, you're going to be good year in and year out. I think all teams that are really good in the end are all player driven teams.
And I would say, especially if you have a history of winning, and I just think of the Georgia Bulldogs and all in Alabama, when how hard it is for Kirby Smart to motivate kids that have just won 2 championships.
Yeah.
Like, because they're hungry until they get that.
Mm-hmm.
And then to be able to come back and work extremely hard, I think that's what Kirby accreditates a lot of his athletes, is how hard they work. And that passes on to the next kids, knowing that you might not have everything, you might not have the best quarterback in the world, the best receiver, but
it's a belief system,
right? You just gotta you gotta work hard every day, even if you do have the best quarterback. If the right tackle isn't busting his ass in the weight room, then the best quarterback might not be able to be the best quarterback.
100%.
I mean, you can't rely on another athlete.
Yeah, you got to just keep building, and I think all good programs are a steady build on top of each other. And you go back. A lot of times it doesn't matter what I say. I mean, they're still kids. I can get on them. I can do whatever I want. They're going to go with whoever the alpha is. And if the alpha's out there working his butt off every day at practice, then the rest of those kids are going to start trying to raise up to his level just to keep up. So
I think that one of the greatest alpha males I ever played with was Seth Benefield.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know
his son just played for us 2 years ago. He's playing at Harvard right now, playing linebacker.
Really?
Yeah.
And the reason, Seth, I hope you watch this, because I haven't seen Seth in 30 years. But the guy was just as genuine and as friendly, but you did not mess around with his sport. Yeah. Like, he was a football player.
When it was time.
And if you are doing anything that's going to prevent him from winning, you are not on his good side. And I loved it. I just loved it because I was a very average football player, and that's being generous. Mm-hmm. But when Seth was in my huddle or around me, I stepped it up because I knew
you didn't want to let him down.
He wasn't ugly. He was never going to be mean. He was never going to tell me I was terrible or sorry or make fun of me. But he was always going to call me out if I wasn't giving my best effort. That's going to affect the way him and his team play. I just absolutely loved it. I will never forget. I can see his attitude, if that's even a thing, now, 30 years later. Was his son like that?
Yeah, Dorsey was a very good player for us.
He's got to be if he's at Harvard and playing football.
He was super smart, great kid, just a good leader. He's a big old kid, man, and he played running back and linebacker for us.
It'd probably be a boring movie, to be honest, no offense, but I mean, Laura was a pretty incredible person as well.
She is. So she works in the middle school. So I still see her often. And she was our treasurer for the football team. Yeah. So they were very involved and, just good, good people.
That's like the dream. Like if you wanted to put together the most boring movie that seems unreal because they are just the two greatest people that I knew in high school to get married, to be successful, just to be great people. And that's the difference, I think, when you get older, because when you're younger, you're thinking he's a great athlete. Yeah. He's the funniest. He's that. And I think those two were the package. They just loved them, and there's no one that could wish anything negative about either of them and their family because they were good. They were just great people.
Good people.
I love them, so let's talk about, you mentioned something about sports, all the different, because lacrosse is getting big in Peachtree City. I love watching youth lacrosse because Peachtree City teams go and kick the butts of these teams on the north side all the time.
They do pretty well.
So you've got pretty good lacrosse, and soccer's big in Peachtree City.
Right.
Are y'all trying to recruit into that? Because now we're finally getting true athletes, especially in lacrosse. You got some badasses in lacrosse.
Yeah, I think lacrosse, the lacrosse and baseball world have kind of collided, really. Because a lot of those kids, maybe at a young age, they can't just stand out on a baseball field. It's a little boring for them, and those kids take up lacrosse. And so those two sports have kind of collided. But, our job here is to, one, I'm trying to convince the middle school kids not to pick a sport while they're still in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Like, for me as a coach, as a varsity football coach, I'm trying to say, hey, let's do this through at least your sophomore year, play as much as you can, and, we'll see where it goes from there. I think lacrosse and football, they're opposite seasons. They should be pretty hand in hand. Yeah. You would think the same type kids just roll from one to the other.
Toughness, and most lacrosse kids like to hit each other and run.
Yeah.
Like it's the best of both worlds.
Same story. So, you're just trying to keep relationships and build relationships with those kids. I mean, that's what coaching and teaching and all this is. It's just relationship building, and hopefully those kids learn to trust you and believe in you enough that they do what that you say on a Friday night and they can execute. So we have a very successful lacrosse program here, as well as soccer. Soccer's been pretty beneficial for us in the kicking game over the years. You know, we can run one out here. We got one coming out this year as a senior. Never kicked a football before, and he's out there thumping it like he's been doing it all his life. So the lacrosse kids over the last couple of years, we had a bigger wave of lacrosse kids come back out this year, you know, that haven't played the last 2 years, and I think they're going to be very, very helpful in what we do. I mean, they're good. They're they're big kids.
Yeah.
I mean, lacrosse is still physical and all that. And I think.
Well, so that goes back to you talked about you got a new scoreboard.
Right.
And you said you wanted to redo that locker room. So we tell you know, college football, all they do is promote with their locker rooms, and they got a barber shop inside.
Oh, yeah.
So lacrosse doesn't have all that.
So lacrosse.
So you get that locker room done.
Yeah.
Some nice video games in there and all that. You might have some lacrosse kids come out.
I don't know. If I could put video games in there, I don't know if I'd get them to practice on time. We may skip the video games, but yeah, I mean, lacrosse uses the backside of our locker room. We used to have an old 9th grade JV locker room that sits back there. They fixed it up really nice. You know, used to high school football numbers 15, 20 years ago when that was going on was 100, 120 kids. Well, I mean, we're down to like 80 kids. So we don't need all that extra space, so they've kind of taken over. But yeah, we're trying to, you know, continue to upgrade the school. Obviously, with the scoreboard, you know, the stadium right here. People that don't know, I mean, the county was just going to build a regular metal bleacher stadium in here, and I think from what I've got, about 4 or 5 parents put their house on lien to build the concrete stadium when the school first opened.
Wow.
Just to
you know
just
those parents, put them in the comments. I want to see
so. I mean, but that's been since the school opened, that's been kind of a Starr's Mill tradition here. I mean, these parents, they want the best for their kids, and they want to continue to grow the program and grow the facilities, and you know, they'll do whatever it takes to try to get that done. And that shows with the scoreboard, which took us a couple years. Took us a couple years to raise the money for the scoreboard.
That's through boosters.
Yeah, boosters. I wasn't here for I wasn't here for the stadium, but you know, generally, you know, with the locker room, you know, we're just trying to find a number and find a goal that we have to reach, and then start working to.
So what's it going to cost to get DavidMonSewer.com on the billboard?
I got a flyer for you before we leave. You can whatever you want.
Give it to me. All right. So what kind of coach is David Cooper? Are you? I feel like every football coach has to be angry and super just powerful. Is there another type of coach? Are you a screamer? Are you a pull them on the side and like quietly?
I don't know. I'm definitely a screamer. I mean, I still have my moments, and you know, that comes from my time at Sandy Creek. I mean, like when I first started teaching in 05, you know, I walked up on a group of coaches, Chip Walker, Brett Garvin, Eddie Householder, Jamie Glover, like all these alpha South Georgia males, and that's how practice was every day. It was, you left practice and you couldn't talk at the end of practice. So I was kind of ingrained in that, and that's how it was supposed to be done. Well, when I first came here, my probably first 2 years here, starting in 2014, I was still that yeller and screamer. Well, our kids didn't really respond the same as maybe our kids did down the road. So I've lightened up a good bit. I'm a big, you know, I want to have relationships with the kids. I want them to be able to trust me. I do yell when things go off, but I'm sure to go back and love on them after I yell at this point, where, you know, 20 years.
It's like parenting.
Fatherhood. Yeah, I mean, that's what for our kids, I'm just another father figure for them. But, you know, there's some kids here that don't have that figure in their life. But you're just trying to be the best person you can. I want them to be successful, and sometimes you know that old way comes out, and you drive it in them the hard way. And then, but it, like we talked about earlier, the mental health side of kids. Now you got to make sure you love on these kids behind it. I mean, you know, you can't just yell and ignore anymore. you got to come back and follow yourself up and make sure you understand what sets you off about the situation.
But even as a parent, I have to think about that because I want to let it marinate too.
Yep.
Like sometimes I will really get on his butt,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to go, oh, that was too much. And I was like, no, I need him to feel bad for a little bit because he was wrong, and my expectation is correct, but maybe I shouldn't have yelled or whatever. I want him to understand. So I know for me, I have to think, okay, I'll set it down.
Yeah, he got 10 minutes. I'm gonna let him sit on it.
Let him marinate on that. And sometimes they gotta feel those hard feelings.
Yeah.
They gotta feel like they let somebody down because I don't know. I could be wrong.
No,
but
I don't think
I feel
so.
like sometimes you gotta feel bad. You gotta have some remorse or regret. I think sometimes we pat them on the back and pick them up too quickly, and they never have those hard, bad feelings.
Right.
So
yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what it is. It's the game. I think football is a very accurate representation of life. I mean, there's going to be good times. There's going to be bad times. There's, you're trying to teach them, to respect the game. You're trying to teach them to get through tough situations, resolve, resilience. Like all these things are all wrapped up in one field, and it happens every day at practice, and then it also happens on a Friday night. Yeah. And football to me, as much as I love baseball and a bunch of other sports, but a Friday night, we practice for 4 days for things to go right for 60 minutes. Yeah. You know what I mean? We got a small window for everything to work the way we should. And I feel like, some of the other sports of this baseball, just to be an example, you may play 3 or 4 games a week. Like ultimately we practice, but like when we roll out there, either we're better than you or we're not better than you. Football, there's so many game time adjustments, so many calls, so much thinking and processing going on. And you're trying to think your way through it just like the kids are. So that's what's grown my love for football over the years is all the little details.
Well, I did a podcast with David King, who won a state championship in lacrosse here at Starr's Mill. And he said a lot of the same thing about how it translates into life and how important sports are of preparing for something, for working hard for a moment, and how that prepares you for life, and how even in that moment you might fail. But you have to pick yourself up, and it might not even be your fault. Like in football, you prepare and you could execute perfectly, but they had that one something, and you can still lose. And I think that does prepare you for life. That is huge.
So you're either losing or learning. That's your 2 options.
Yes, yeah. So how much do you talk about kids? I don't know why I'm asking this, but like, how much is parenting, if you will, as a coach, do y'all have to do with? I relate everything with reading the media with Kirby Smart of how he has to sit these kids down. Okay, don't drink and drive. Okay, make sure you're in. Make sure you stay away from this. How much of that do you do as the coaching staff, or is it really the parents' job?
I think all my coaches have a little part in that, including myself. One great thing about being here at Starr's Mill is most of these kids, go home to a mom and a dad, and most of their parents drive and expect high standards at the house. And I think the school reaps the benefits of the area we live in. These kids are going to score great on test scores because that's what's being pushed at the house. They have to execute. They have to do their homework. They have to do everything. When we get out here in the field, we have parents who are ex-military, Navy retired, business owners, multiple vice presidents or CEOs of companies, Delta pilots. Like that's what we're surrounded with. And they've gone through a ton in their life, whether it be, through their youth or now, and they know what the bar is for their kids to be successful, and they drive that at the house. I don't have a ton of it at the school that I have to go, but I know, my situation is probably very fortunate because I know a lot of other surrounding schools. We were at a camp last week and we were talking to a coach, and, he was, talking about he has 60, 70 players on his team and only 5 of them have a 2-parent household. Wow. And, and like 8 to 9 of those were maybe due to suicide in the area. And I mean, like, that just makes you sit down for a second and go, oh, how fortunate am I
to
live in this area?
Y'all need to be grateful too.
Because there's so many different situations, and not just in Georgia. You only see the highlight reel. of what's going on at all the good schools and big schools and how we're doing, but there's so many areas of need just around the whole state that probably aren't as fortunate as we are.
Yeah. I think that's why it becomes a made-for-TV movie when those kids from lower income or from situations like that achieve greatness, how big of a deal it is.
Yeah, you made it out.
Those kids are struggling to get to practice,
Mm-hmm.
just to get a ride to and from practice. I think we think it is just a movie, or I think people need to know that they are fortunate. They won the genetic lottery to be born in a family in Fayette County, or to be in this situation. Because there's a lot of kids that have an uphill battle on simple things that we take for granted.
Yeah, thanks.
Going home and having a meal after working this hard.
100%.
That's incredible. So what makes, you talked about, and it sounds like the parents are doing a pretty good job of raising their kids, but what makes a good football mom or a good football dad? Because I'm sure there are some that, you hear the stories of how you watch Varsity Blues and the dad's meeting you in the parking lot when you go in the car. What makes a great parent of a bad football player or a good football player?
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's a tricky answer for sure. I think, parents that are involved, what we do in really every sport, not just trying to focus on football, but, what we do here takes a lot of people to run. It truly takes a village. I mean, there's so many parts of the Booster Club. There's fundraising. There's everything going on that if your parent's involved, that's awesome. It shows your dedication and your commitment to your kid and what they're participating in. But then I also think a parent is a great parent if I don't know you, to an extent. Like, It's just a kid. He shows up every day. Some of our best players over the years, like, honestly, I couldn't point out the dad or the mom in the crowd because they just, hey, when they show up, they're yours. When they come home, they're mine. And they don't, intertwine the two. For me, I explained it one day out here at a Booster Club meeting. Look, my biggest kind of peeve is I can tell when the parents are having negative dinner talks, right? Because some of the stuff the kids will say, they'll hear the parents say it at the dinner, and then I hear them say it out here, and I know it's not something that a kid came up with or said. So, I mean, I talked about it. Just have positive dinner talks, like even
especially
if
about other kids,
other coaches. Like, and if there's a problem, I'd just rather you come to me or send me an email or talk to me rather than putting it in your kid's head, because that becomes that kid may spread it to 10 other kids, and then next thing you know, we have a wave of players with that same thought process that may be true or not be true, but it just creates a negative kind of cloud over. I mean, that's kind of my biggest things when you're sitting at home.
So we need to ask the parents to be humble, and I don't know why that word comes to my mind, but be humble enough to know that you might not be right. Like you are, unless you coach D1 football or some higher level, or you could show me your state championship trophies, then your opinion, and you're not out here every day.
Right.
You don't see how the kid reacts to this or that. You don't know how the backup quarterback knows the playbook. You don't see all that.
Right.
So we all have opinions, and it's fun to be armchair quarterbacks. But like you said, let's keep that talk between the dads and not in front of your kids, because you could be wrong.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, like when I was growing up, I mean, it was either my dad never, if anything, you knew who my dad was probably, but my dad never like interjected with anything that was going on. And if I ever got in trouble, I can remember Coach Mosley ran me for hours one day at practice, and I got home, and of course I'm complaining about it. My dad's like, "What did you do?" Like, he didn't care what Coach Mosley did or why he ran me.
Yeah.
You need to come off of why is this the case? Why aren't you playing? Why are you sitting out this game? But, and then early from Sandy Creek, I guess, I can't remember who said it, but, honestly, I think football will do more for most of these kids than they'll ever do for the game.
Yeah.
And, you're trying to be out here with a group of kids that all have generally the same mindset and go through tough situations. And I feel like, if you don't participate in something like that or don't do that, we as older adults now, after we get done with our short window playing career, most kids are high school, some kids are college, and the very few that go further, man, you spend the rest of your life trying to find a group of people that are interested in the same thing or that have the same goals as you. And it ends up being like a golf group or like, but you never quite have that same bond that you had at a younger age. So you want to encourage these kids just to do it, you know, whether they're good, whether they're not good. Like I said, most of these kids out here that even play for me, you know, we're building from their freshman year, and then you're like, oh, their sophomore year, well, I don't know if he's ever going to play. Their junior year, he's got a little bit better, but he's still probably not going to play. And then we play with kids their senior year all the time that are truly programmed kids. And because of the hard work and dedication they've stacked on top of each other for years, they're able to be contributors to her where ideally, or at the beginning, we never thought that this kid was going to be able to do it.
You don't know when they're going to blossom physically.
And that should be such gratification for the parents or the kids or anybody, because let's not act like some of those kids don't stand out there and go, oh my gosh, these kids are way better than me. I'm never going to play. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in a spot, and it should be like, I did it. You know, I've accomplished something that I didn't think I would be able to do.
Yeah. When you talk about the friendships, one thing I've told Max, because my son's never going to play football. I wish he would change his mind. I'd try. But I told him, I just want you to ride the bus. Like, join the track team.
Right.
Join some sport. And because riding the bus, that, like you said, the bonding, the friendships, those were the great memories. The riding to the game and the focus. And then riding home and the celebration or the sadness, whatever that was. I just want you to ride the bus. That's what I want you to experience is riding that bus on some sport. Yeah. And I think that's why that's a huge part of it.
I'll remember, you probably don't remember, but our bus rides in high school, and we do roll call on the way home. Hey, and oh my goodness, it was some of the funnier moments in my life were sitting on that bus. I can remember Matt Epps. Yeah. Okay, we can talk about this. We were on the way to Noonan, baseball game. He came over the seat and mooned me and Jeff in the back seat, right? Just bare cheeks right over the seat. We took his hat, tore his bill off in the back seat and threw it out the window before we got to Noonan. So when he got off the bus at Noonan, he just had a beanie. And Coach Townsend was furious. I mean, but I'll never forget it. It was just like, you know.
Was he pitching that day?
I have no idea, but he only had a beanie cap with no bill on the front. And it was just, that's a bus moment. Like things that happen that you'll never, I got some more that I won't mention, but just so funny.
In high school, we had, maybe it was middle school, I went to North Clayton, and the kids that could freestyle rap, like before now it's all trendy, but those kids on that bus, it was kind of like y'all's roll call where he was just going and he would just hit everybody on that bus. And I just never been so much in awe and laughing and just absolutely
good times, man.
All right, let me finish with the who you looking forward to playing most? What game is circled on your calendar?
I mean, I think for the last couple of years for us, I mean, Whitewater obviously is a huge rival for us now. We've had our ups and downs with them, and the kids really get up to play Whitewater. And then, region for us is Central Carroll. If you don't know the history between us two, we played them in the Elite Eight 2 years ago. And we scored on a 40-yard Hail Mary with no time left to beat them to go to the Final Four. So I don't know, they could have been better than us maybe, and we stuck it to them pretty early, and then they started to get back in late.
Everybody's got a plan until you punch them in the mouth.
Yeah, and then we completed Hail Mary to end the game. And then last year at our place, they jumped out on us early. They were rated higher than us. They were the team to beat. We onside kicked open the second half, scored on the next play, and then flipped the whole game in about a 5-minute span. So we've built a little.
So the game is there.
It's at Central this year.
So
yeah.
We need the parents to travel.
Yeah, they will. They know that game's a big game for us.
Awesome.
And then hopefully, that is a game. I think game 6 or 7 for us. I think. So.
Do y'all play Trinity?
No.
Okay.
They're in 3A, so they're below us.
They came and play the game.
A couple years ago, they were in the same region with us, and then through the new classification, so we're really the only team in 4A. McIntosh is in 5, and then Whitewater, Sandy Creek, Trinity, Fayette. Everybody else is in 3.
Oh, wow.
So we're kind of sitting by ourselves right now. But yeah, we you know, I think every game's big for us, especially through the growing season for us. I mean, with new quarterback, multiple new people, especially on defense too. You know, we're going to feel our way through the first couple games, and then hopefully we're, you know, stacking success and getting better.
Yeah.
And we're ready to go by the time region starts.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, parents, it's important for y'all to support these programs. If you have a child that's playing any sport, whether it's lacrosse, I assume y'all share funding at all, gate money, any of that shit?
So athletics gets gates, and then everybody else
But the booster
runs their
club-
individual booster clubs. Yep.
It's individual booster clubs per
Mhm.
sport.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way it's
Never
going.
mind.
It's expensive. I mean, like every sport's expensive at this point, and they need their. Everybody
See, I forget
has
that kids pay now.
Yeah.
to
So
play. Like,
there's
that was different when I was a kid. You didn't play. You didn't pay a dime.
almost every sport there's dues now. I mean, you got to think. I mean,
Even in middle school, we paid for Max to play run track. I think I paid $85.
yeah. And if we're furnishing, you know, right out of the gates, and this is with every school in the state, but if I got 80 kids, there's a $500 helmet, and a $350 pair of pads on them.
Now, do
Well,
y'all
we
have
even start-
sponsors? Like, does anybody sponsor your uniform and every uniform, all uniforms are Nike? Does
So
that happen?
no, we have Adidas. We basically move around. It seems to be what a lot of schools stay with Nike, and they're able to fund like the Bufords and the Carrolltons and whatever. They just got a deal. We bounced around a couple times, just whoever's cutting the better deal
Right.
between the two. They're trying to go back to Nike now, but it just all depends.
And we didn't talk about NIL, and I'd love to have that conversation, but I know we're out of time. So let's circle back maybe mid-season and figure out, you know, how did we get to be 6-0? What do we got to do to finish the season undefeated?
I hope that's the case.
That's the conversation we're going to have.
I hope that's the case.
All right. If you're looking to buy a home in this area to play football for this man, I can refer you a real estate agent, and I can also do your mortgage. I got a title.
Yeah, there you go.
You gotta do
There's
this to make
the
money.
pitch.
So, David, thank you so much. So great to see you. I absolutely love your success. I think so much of you as an athlete and now as a coach. I can't wait to watch, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, man.
All right.